Oh, hi. Welcome to Say It, I Dare You, the podcast where we pull apart the personal meanings of taboo and hard to say words and phrases with lovely guests and some gentle peer pressure. Today, we are talking about the word runner. This one was a little bit tricky because we tossed up potentially doing the word athlete, but if any of you follow us on socials, you saw the absolute mess of the internet drama when I posted some content about women's sports, and it went viral with women haters. But you know what? Bring it the fuck on. We're doing it again. The definition of runner is pretty simple. It's a person who runs, but more specifically, it's often used to refer to someone who does running as like a frequent hobby or competes as a runner even. If you go for runs often, you're a runner, even if you're not competing ultramarathons or in the Olympics. But apparently this is a really hard concept for some people to grasp, mostly from what I've noticed, because people's opinions about physical health and movement are steeped in like fat phobia and diet culture and judgment. And we'll get to all of that. I'm Quinn, and today I'm joined by Ashley Rowe, founder of the New Leaf Collective, a marketing collective for small businesses, co-owner of the Brandon Bloom Studio, which is where we're filming today, and a runner and an athlete and an advocate. Hi, Ashley. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Recently, some of Ashley's running content has also gone viral on the wrong side of the internet, so we've been connecting over the processing of the wrong side of the internet. And as much as I would have preferred that people be like way kinder to you, I do think it will add to this conversation some interesting perspectives on like how people make assumptions and judgments about people just moving their fucking bodies. So
literally.
I'm sorry it happened to you, but I hope that it can help some people, including us. Like,
I'm sorry that it happened to you. Like, honestly.
Yeah, when I saw that it was happening to you, I felt this like, I don't want to say relief because I was like, fuck, somebody I care about is going through it. But also I was like, oh, somebody who works in marketing, who is going through something similar, I can talk to about it. So
absolutely,
maybe this space is going to be providing that for other people. Yeah. And I'm happy about that. So let's start with the usual from this podcast. Ashley, why do you relate to this episode topic?
Yeah. So runner for me is, it's a difficult word, but also something that's really empowering too. So like what I mean by that is I think runner for me over the years has so drastically changed the meaning. I think like when I was a kid growing up, running would just be like, yeah, I run on the schoolyard. Like, what do you mean? And then like maybe going through high school, I would do things like cross country and I'd be like, oh, I'm a runner because I'm on like a cross country team. And then like later on in life, runner to me just meant like I got out and I was moving and I didn't really think much else after that because like to me, and maybe it's just the people that I surround myself with, running was just like, you move. Awesome. And like that was it. Running for me became something that helped my mental health so much. It helped my physical health. And like to me, runner was always just like positive.
Right.
But the reason why I started this by saying difficult is because of exactly what you're talking about, the video. And I would never say runner was difficult before this moment. Like, I think like, but again, that could just be my own like, worldview and things like that, because to me runner is happy, runner is like I'm moving. But because of this video, the word changed in meaning, I think, for a while, and I'm still kind of working through that, if I were being honest. But I know at its core it's positive. I know at its core it shouldn't have these just like notions around it, but it does. When it spreads on the internet,
it's bad.
People have crazy opinions on it and crazy ways to like view that you must be a certain way, you must compete a certain way to be a runner. And like, I don't think it should be that. I don't think runner should be a difficult word.
Yeah, it's always, I really thought we were going to wait a little longer to get into this part, but like, I just have so much to say about the tea of people who are like, both the person commenting on things saying you need to get to the gym, you need to work out, and in the same breath being the people commenting on people who don't look a certain way being in the gym and working out and how they shouldn't be there, or they're doing it wrong, or they don't know what they're doing, or they can't call themselves an athlete. Like, pick a lane.
Literally.
Pick a side. But it is the same genre of people, and the internet, I think, is the worst place for it. I will say, and all of her stuff will be linked in the comments, like Ashley's Corner of the Internet is a wonderful place for it. And I'm glad, I remember reaching out to you after the wrong side of the internet incident, which we will get to the details of. And just saying like, please keep doing it, because I benefit from your content and from people making content about like, it doesn't have to look like,
doesn't have to look a certain way. It shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, I think that we should love like professional athletes doing their thing. And like, I love seeing a strong, fast woman like that rocks, but like, it doesn't take that away from me.
Yeah.
Like, I may not ever compete in an Olympics, and I am so cool with that.
Yeah. You're like, I'm not actually trying to do that.
But like, I think it's great to see women excel so much in sports, even if that's not going to be me. Like, God bless them.
Yes.
But I think like that has been such like an eye-opening thing, and to me that just that opinion, the way that people comment on videos, the backlash is just never something that occurred to me, and until it happens to you, you just have no idea. And it makes me think of all of the other people who experience this. And I find now, since this moment's happened, I have gone through videos that I see that are like viral as an example, and I'm looking for those comments. I'm looking to see if that's happening to other people, and it's like, why? Because, you know, I would be scrolling Instagram 2 weeks ago, I would have never have thought about that. I would have never thought about these negative things, but now I see a woman running who looks like me and things like that, and I'm checking her comments to make sure that she's okay. And it's like, what is going on? Like, why can't we just have wholesome, you know, everybody is a runner content without it being teared down? It's
like a dog eat dog world. I think athleticism in general is sports are competitive, and that is the nature of sports,
and that's awesome.
But like, there are people who do sports to not be the next Usain Bolt or like the next PWHL player. Some people just play hockey to play hockey or run to run. What makes you think, I'm going to reword the question. What do you think makes people uncomfortable talking about running or fitness in general?
I think it's uncomfortable because I think a lot of the ways that we grow up are so associated with, like, I've seen this all the time, like, skinny is healthy, but like, if you're too skinny, then it's a problem. But if you're too big, then that's a problem. So like, what's this happy medium? And then the happy medium is like, you forget to take care of yourself in another way. And it's like the Barbie movie monologue of like, you can be this, but you can't be that. And I think like the way that, it's uncomfortable for a lot of people is because we associate this idea of athleticism with this like perfect image. And anything that's the slightest deviation from that is unacceptable. And also, like, more to like celebrity theories, like the amount of celebrities that I used to look up to as a kid, and you'd go onto like a Shoppers or something, and you'd go and look in their magazine section, and it's the littlest deviation on their stomach, or you know, the littlest thing that they said in public, and now they're scrutinized for it. But to me, it was always like, oh, it's, you know, it's the perfect celebrity and that kind of thing. And I think it makes people uncomfortable when you stray away from this idea of perfect. But like, what's perfect? We're on a floating rock.
Literally.
Like, what are you trying to tell me that like perfect exists? Like, we're on a floating rock. These rules are made up. Like this like standards that we've set for ourselves are literally made up. I don't know who made them. I don't like them. I think like, just be yourself, be like whatever version that is. And like, I just don't understand how this has all happened, because we're on a floating rock.
It's really not that serious is the point of it all.
It can't be. It has not been and will never be that serious, but it is.
To some people.
Some people.
It's interesting because when I wrote this question, I kind of only thought about it from the perspective that you just gave of like, there's some people that think it's uncomfortable to talk about because there's like this one perfect thing. But I guess introspectively also, like, as people who move our bodies, like, it's uncomfortable for me to talk about sometimes, because and not just me, I'm using me as an example, but for people to talk about, you know, I've started running and I'm excited about it, or I've started doing this class and I'm excited about it, because people have so much to say in response to that it's not just that there's discomfort from the opposite side of people who are like, I don't like it when people over this exact weight class call themselves an athlete. There's also people who are trying to be healthier who are like so uncomfortable being open about it because of the scrutiny.
Absolutely. And like, I think a lot of it is who you surround yourself with.
Yes.
Like, I have been very lucky that like when I started running and like fell in love with it at the time, like not a lot of my friends were kind of interested in running, and like it was wonderful because we could find this love over it together, and like by completing races and completing things, like I got to share my love with them, so then they were able to find that. And like even my partner, like we both went into this relationship having a love for running, and then as the relationship grew, we were able to support each other but have like very different running goals, but it was the same thing. It was like that sort of support system that I think helped. But I know like for other people, it's hard to find that group that like is like, yes, like let's get it. And like I had a lot of people that I was lucky enough to like enjoy it with me, but I also had a lot of people in my life that are like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? You need to like be set up this certain way, or why would you try and go for this goal? You need to be able to run this fast first. And it's like, what does that even mean? Like, so I think it's a huge benefit to the people that you surround yourself with, and hopefully there are people that support it. But I also understand the perspective of like, it's hard to just be like, I want to start running, and if one person says no, I would just get so nervous and like so scared and that kind of thing. And
I think it's just a matter of boiling it down to the floating rock comments really resonating with me, because really it's that, but also like runner means different things to different people.
Absolutely.
And whatever it means to you is the reality. Like,
that's it.
It is still runner. It is going to mean something different who's like to someone who's trying to do the Leadville 100 ultra marathon than it is to someone who's doing their first like 5K Toronto waterfront.
Absolutely.
It does not mean that one is better than the other. They're just simply different, and like people forget that.
Absolutely.
It's infuriating.
And it's just like, if you put on running shoes, specifically ones that make you feel good, I recommend bright colors, but if you put on running shoes and you move, you're a runner. That's it. There's no type of person, there's no right way to do it. Just move. And like the mental and physical benefits from it are amazing. And like that's something we can talk about more later, but just move, and I promise you your body will thank you for it. If you find like a great community with it too, I think like that's really important as well. And it's just great to see how those things can come together. And I want to really hone in on that, is there is a lot of positivity in it. Although these experiences have been hard with runner and using that word, there's so much greatness in it. And if you're thinking about picking up your shoes for the first time and running a 5K in 2025, like do it. It's so fun. And like there's so much benefit to it, but I hope that people find the reason to share it with people that they love, or share it in a way that feels good to them. Honestly.
I'm only going to give this caveat once, because I hope it's obvious, given like the type of people we are on this podcast, that there is also just the caveat that if you pick up your shoes and you try running and running's not for you, that's so chill. Like I will absolutely like push it, as in I think you should give it a try if you're interested. And if you find it hard the first time, try again if you're still interested, because it's going to be hard, and hard things are cool. And I will only say this once, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Try moving your body in a different way. That is just as acceptable.
Absolutely.
Moving on from that. Do you think the word runner itself is what people are trying to like redefine, or is it more personal than that?
That's such a good question. I think like, it could be bigger than that, like in the way that, runner is just one of the identities that I hold. And like, I try and hold space for people to, feel that they can see themselves in myself or other people. But I also think like, just being a woman in general, I feel like it's a constant uphill battle. Like another identity that I have as a business owner, and I feel that it's become so much bigger than that, and it feels like the uphill battle of always proving yourself like over and over and over again. So I think like you know, it's not just runner. Every identity that I have, I feel like it's constantly that push of proving that I deserve a spot at the table, proving that I'm fast enough, proving that I'm this enough. And it's just like, damn, like, how is this happening that we always have to, with whatever identity that is, it's proving yourself. It's like always trying to continuously carve your way. And it's like, what if we just existed?
Yeah. Well, and I've been recently kind of like toying with this concept of like, trying not to move the bar after I set it, as in I set the bar, I set a goal, and I'm the type of person where as soon as I reach the goal, I've already actually moved the bar and now I didn't achieve it because I could have done better. And as the second I've reached that goal, the next one's even higher. And it's like, what if we just left the bar there and like, let's celebrate it. Let's say I run a 5K. Let me just go do one more. Yeah. I don't have to then move to a 10K.
No.
Just go do one more. Yeah. Do it again. Do it 5 times. It doesn't matter. But like, literally, don't move the bar fast enough that you're not spending time appreciating the achievements that you've had. And that goes for all those pieces of identity within you as a person, as a business owner, as a partner, whatever. Like, don't unnecessarily move the bar. Yeah. Yeah. I think so. We'll get to these stories. There's virality. There's some marathon stories that we've got that I think are really important to your identity as a runner. You've literally run marathons. You go for runs often and exercise. So it's crazy to me that people suggest that you aren't a runner. But how did you get to a point where you felt confident calling yourself that title with or without the support of other people?
That's such a good question. I think I became confident in calling myself that after my very first race. So when I had started running, it was very much just like I just needed an outlet. I needed something to make myself feel better. I needed to hold myself accountable. And like that's sort of where it started. And like I was a runner in the sense of then like, you know, I'd laced up my shoes again and I was doing that. But like my very first race, it was just like a local one here in town. And receiving my very first medal, which feels like very childhood, like track and field type of, but it brings back those same memories. And like I remember the very first feeling of like crossing a finish line where I was like, oh my God, this is my thing. And like that's where I think I really associated maybe the word runner at that point. But that's not to say that's how everybody has to do it. That was just like my experience of like crossing that finish line, putting in the work, kind of seeing the result, and then like having this tangible thing of like, I did that, made me feel so empowered. And it was, you know, my very first race, and then it obviously continued from there sort of over time. But it's that same sort of like childhood feeling of like that recognition. And like that was the first time where it clicked. I was like, oh, this is my thing, but also how can I make more people feel like this? Even if it's like, you know, if it's a race, great, but also if it's just movement of any kind, like how will you get to that point of like, oh, that felt really good, and like soaking in that moment. So that's what started it for me, and then it just kept continuing, and the word runner has changed a lot over the past 2 years since I've been taking it and running with it. But, you know, it's changed a lot. But I think at its core, it was that first core memory of like, I did the thing, and that's enough. And like, and it helped so much having that first recognition. Yeah. And that's it. I like, in a sense, that you're equating it to like this childlike joy, because it really is like when you accomplish something that you're really excited to accomplish, it feels so good. It does. And it's so nice to know that, especially when it has something to do with kind of you and your own wants and your own needs. It's one thing to, I mean, you're a business owner, so it's a bit of a different story, but it's one thing to, you know, accomplish something at work or accomplish something that you've been excited about, but something that is that personal, it's a different feeling. Yeah, it's you. It's like you moved your legs, you did the thing, and like I completely agree with you. It's just that much different, and it's just such a great feeling, and that's like what stuck with me, and that's the feeling that I keep sort of going after with all the runs and things like that as well. So I know that there was a time kind of after this euphoric feeling where you had a DNF with a marathon, which for those who don't know, it's did not finish. And we've talked slightly, but I can also just imagine that like that
can kind of knock the wind out of your sails.
Oh, absolutely.
Tell me a bit more about kind of not only how that felt and what happened, but then like, where did you go from there? Like, how'd you redirect to being like, I'm still a runner. It's okay.
Yeah. So this kind of story time starts where earlier last year, I decided to run my very first marathon. And the decision itself was kind of on a whim. It was very much that belief of like, I can't do it. I paid the money. I'm going to do it. So I signed up for a race on the other side of the country. And I went into it with, I want to finish the marathon, but also that I had family over there that I hadn't seen in multiple years, and it was my partner's anniversary.
Cute.
So at its core, it was like it was three things. It wasn't always just about running the marathon. It was this lovely anniversary trip, but also it was like reconnecting with family that I hadn't seen in forever. And leading up to the marathon with content and marketing, I would share stories about like how I'm like a slower runner, but we're still like making it work and we're doing the thing. And I had brought on a charity that I was raising money for the marathon. So like, you know, I'm lining up all these things. I do the marathon training plan, the whole 16 weeks. And like, I focus in and I'm hitting like all of these checklists that you're supposed to. And most major races will have a cutoff time. So for this race, it was 6 hours and 30 minutes, which is such a long time to be moving your body.
Yes.
But the way that I had predicted it, my finish time was hopefully going to be around 6 hours. So in order to do that, I wrote on my arm the exact times that I needed to hit certain milestones to make sure that I wouldn't get swept off. So like 5K I had to run at this time, 10K I had to run at this time, and like so on. Race day happens. It's beautiful. It's euphoric. I'm like running basically near the mountains. Like we're running oceanside. Like it was the most fun I had ever had in my entire life. I'd never seen a mountain before. Like it was so crazy. And it was like, it was rekindling with family. It was anniversary. Like all of these things came together. I had put the work in. It was literally on our anniversary too. So like everything had come together. And you know, I had passed the half marathon mark and I was like, holy shit, like this is it. Like we're halfway done now. Like things hurt as they would, but like nothing was wrong. And in previous training, like I did have bad runs. I did have like mess ups and things like that. But at this point, things were very positive. And basically a long story short was they needed to open up the roads. I got swept off the course and I didn't get to finish the marathon. And it ruined me. It was so heartbreaking because for so long, I think I wanted to be that girl that was like, no, you can be who you want to be and finish the race. You can, you know, bring so much joy out of like traveling for these experiences if you can. And like, I had put so much value in the charity partners, like you name it. Like we had lined up everything. I had done the training. I had done the work. I had like done this, and the day happens and shit happens. Like I was pulled off the course. I was humiliated. Like they have a live tracking app for a lot of these runs. And so it just went blank. And so while I'm dealing with all of these emotions of like, oh my God, I've spent years for this moment. My family's here. My partner's here. What do I do? We're having friends and family calling and being like, you're gone. Like, what does that mean?
Are you okay? Yeah.
Exactly. And like for me at that point to not even understand what was going on, to try and explain to somebody like, hey, you know that thing that you were watching me do for 2 years? Yeah, I just like messed that up. I couldn't say it. And that day specifically, I remember when I was leaving, like when my family come and pick me up, I'm like, I'm never doing that again. I would never put myself through that humiliation. And I was like fully ready to like put up my running shoes, never again. And cried, went home. And then I was like, why? Why would I give up all of this training, all of this community, all of this like good things that have come from being associated as runner because one time it didn't work out?
Yeah.
But to the counter of that is like, you know, I tried to do all the things. I tried to do the X, Y, and Z that you needed. It didn't work out. And what do you do with it?
Yeah, which is a great testament to all the discourse about like, if you just put in the work, if you just found the energy and the time to train and eat better and all these things, it's like, that's not actually like the magic potion.
No, it's not. So many things can change on the day. Like your stomach can hurt and it just doesn't work out. Like the weather can suck. Like there's so many different things, but you put pressure on it, right? Of like, it must be perfect.
We are literally contemplating doing a marathon with two of our friends, my wife and I, and we were like, when's everybody's periods?
Yes,
we can't do a marathon around
yes. I train based off of my cycle, like my days in my cycle, and I will like track it to make sure of like, okay, like if I'm menstruating, like we're not running, like we'll do anything else but that. So that's like real.
You can have days,
and so anyways, we came back, cried my eyes out, woke back up from a nap, and I was like, okay, I can either stop right now and let this ruin me, or I can get to the finish line, because that's what it was all about.
Yeah,
like that story that I had shared earlier on in the episode was like, what made me feel like a runner was crossing the finish line, having somebody put the medal over my neck, and like that was it. So why would I, just because this one time I didn't have that feeling, stop? So that night I signed up for the Toronto Waterfront 5K the following weekend, which like kind of a lot, but we made it work. And this was a distance I knew at the time like I could comfortably do. So I did that run, and I had that feeling. I had the finish line, had everything that I wanted to, but I wouldn't have done that if I had just stopped, if I had just let that moment super like all consume me. I most certainly wouldn't have, gone back to school to become like a personal trainer and like tried to bring more people out for runs. Like none of that would have happened if I had just let this moment dwindle me. And that's what it was for me. Runner was that finish line feeling. It's wonderful. It's so empowering. It's all of it. And so now, looking forward to this year, I'm hoping to run the New York City Marathon at the end of this year, specifically because there's no cutoff time.
Nice.
The last place runner in the New York City Marathon last year finished in 10 hours. An absolute king finished in 10 hours. And so, if those are the things that we're up against, like I want to try again. I just think it wasn't my day. It wasn't my race, and that's fine. But I'm hoping to go for the New York City Marathon this year and represent people who are just out there having fun, out there trying to better their mental health. So that's the big goal. It's hard to get into,
right?
But that's the big goal for this year. But if I would have stopped that, like none of these conversations would have been possible. And I don't want to stop, because I want more people to see that you don't have to have this certain look. You don't have to have this certain, family background. I say that about my business too, honestly, but it relates to running today. But like, you don't need to have these things that you think you need to run. You need your shoes that are hopefully a fun color and wanting to try it. And if it's not running, awesome. I hope you find whatever that is too. But just like taking away the power of like people hating you for not looking a certain way in that regard.
Well, and it just makes me want to like, I'm full of protective energy for anyone I care about, but it just makes me want to be like, bitch, were you at the marathon? Were you even trying to run a marathon? Because if you weren't, you can't speak.
Like, were you there? I don't think so.
She was racing. You were not. So shut your mouth.
Literally.
It's and maybe there are people who are runners and also saying things, in which case still shut your mouth. It's just, it's a matter of perception, and I think outside perception can make it feel harder. Because there's being misunderstood. There's feeling like you're comparing yourself to other people. You're moving the bar constantly. Like, I wonder, like, do you think that the perception of running that exists online right now is part of the reason why people feel discouraged to try?
I think like, I don't know, because again, this is my small social media lens. And maybe it's again the creators that I follow, but I see like more of a push for people to not look a certain way and run. And like, I found runners out there that look like me, that inspired me. So, but that's just my own perspective. I think like that is holding a lot of people back. The want and need to do it perfectly is holding a lot of people back. But something that you can do is like, you know, following creators that look like you, that like make you feel good, like those types of things. I think that's what always really helped me. And that's what I try and hope to do on the internet when I'm able to come back from all the things that happened on my other video. But I do see why it would stop somebody, but I hope it doesn't.
Yeah.
Running or not, I hope it doesn't. I hope you don't hold back because you think you have to do it the right way.
Yeah.
We're on a floating rock.
Or there's people that think it's cringe or whatever. Like they're not your people.
Yeah, they're not your people.
So let's get into it. The moment, the big crash.
Yeah.
Recently Ashley went viral on the wrong side of the internet, which is what I not so lovingly call mean people who have mean things to say.
Yeah.
I call it the wrong side of the internet because I think for the most part you and I curate like the right side of the internet, as in like nice people who say nice things.
Yes.
It was a running video.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about it first, and then I have questions for you.
Yeah. Okay, so basically I posted a 6-second video of me eating an Oreo cookie on a run. How this happened was a few hours before my run, my partner was like, hey, I know this ultra marathoner that loves an Oreo before his runs. And he was like, you should try one. I'm like, we had just gone grocery shopping. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, why not? And at the time I was just making small, like little running videos for my like 90 followers. They were going nowhere, but like I love them. And I decided on my run to like eat the Oreo, take a little video of it, and then being like, oh man, I think the caption was like loving Oreos more than gels. And for people who don't know, gels are just like sugar. They're like compacted sugar, all the different things that your body like runs out of on a run. So I think the point of the video is to be like, oh, Oreos taste really good, and like gels, they taste bad.
Yeah, they do. Well, and just like for anyone who doesn't want to do the research, like a brief overview is that when people are running long distances, they often, they have to drink water, but they have to ingest usually gels, and the gels it's more convenient, which is why people do it. And they do it for cycling and stuff like that, but it's to get calories and sugar to give, and carbohydrates to give your body energy.
Yeah. What
a lot of people don't look into is like the macronutrients of these things, and that oftentimes like an Oreo cookie is the exact same nutritional value as a gel.
Yes.
So that's like the backstory as to why Ashley's munching Oreos on this run is like, it makes perfect sense if you understand how human bodies work.
Absolutely.
Just a little tidbit.
Yeah, I just wanted like a little sugar on it. I had never eaten an Oreo on a run before. It was just like, he had mentioned it. We thought it was funny. I did it. It tasted good. Kind of made my stomach hurt. And like, that was that. So then posted the video the day of. It got like 1,000 views. And I was like, whoa, like this is cool. And you know, the next day when I had woke up, it was at like 10,000 views. And I was like, whoa, like my 90 follower running account, like 10,000 views is a lot of people. But at the time, it was super positive. It was like, oh, I eat gummy bears. I like love this too. This is so fun. Like, and it was a lot of women just like excited about it too. Like a lot of ultra marathoners weighing in, being like, yes, like this is so fun to like experience different foods and stuff like that, because it kind of sucks out there. And I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So anyways, the day continues. The video is like continuing to pick up speed. And I'm like, whoa, like because I work in marketing, I'm like, this is awesome. Like organic growth. This is really great to see. And then that night, I was on Instagram and I had saw just a random account called me fat. And I remember at the time, like this was the very first comment that came in.
Right.
And I remember at the time when I read it, I was like, whoa, like I laughed. I was like, man, this is weird. Like this random like bot account just called me fat. And I remember like sending it to a friend and being like, feeling honestly a little insecure, being like, oh my God, isn't this so weird? And they were like, yeah, like that's so weird. You're not that. Like we're all good. Like, and like kind of laughing it off. And I was like, oh, okay, like that was a bit weird. Blocked, deleted, moved on. Went to sleep, woke up, 100,000 views. And I was like, oh shit, like what is going on? And the comments had grown. The comments were calling me all sorts of things, commenting on my body, commenting on my appearance, commenting on like the Oreo, and just like, you name it, just different ways to call me fat, call me all of these like crazy things. And I was like, what is going on? Like, and so during the day I'm like blocking, deleting, and it's like taking up my mind, it's taking up my conscious. And then I would say 2 hours later, it hit 500,000 views. And then I was like, okay, what is going on? Because 2 hours ago, this had 100,000 views and some negative comments, but now they won't stop. Now they are moving to my other videos. Now they're commenting on my charity posts. Now they're coming onto my business page. They're commenting on my partner's things. And now I'm like, okay, this is getting weird. And so because I'm a little marketing nerd, and I love that stuff, I wanted to keep it up because I wanted to look into the analytics. In the 48 hours, it had a watch time of 30 days, which would mean that somebody would have to sit and watch a 6-second video of me eating an Oreo for a month, just sitting there, no breaks, to account for the amount of people that had viewed it. And like, I just thought that was so insane. Like, how did that happen? But also, like, if the video was 2 seconds, would it be 2 months?
Right.
If it was like 10 seconds. So like my marketing brain is getting all excited and things like that. And I'm just blocking out these comments. But what I started noticing was my percentage to non-followers was growing and growing and growing. And I think that night it hit 800,000 views.
Wow.
And my percentage was 100% non-followers, which for the audience, that's 100% of the wrong side of the internet. And it was a comment war. It was men tagging each other in this like fat workout. It was like running influencers weighing in on their opinions, but like men commenting on my body would have like 5,000 likes. And like the video didn't even have that many likes. I was like, what is going on where this comment section is like these people weighing in their awful opinion and like tearing me down and all of these things. And I was just like, what is going on where like these comments being so awful are getting more traction than the video itself. And then like people in the comments are fighting each other over it. Some people on my side, some people not. And it got to about like 10 o'clock that night. And I was like, I can't control this. If I go to sleep tonight and something happens, if they try and attack my business, because they were going everywhere. If they try and attack my business, if they try and attack my partner, if they try and attack my family, my like anything else, I can't do anything because I'm asleep. So I decided to turn off the comments. I thought.
I was going to say plot twist. I tried that. I wish we had talked. I was like, it's not going to work, girl. They'll just go everywhere else.
And they went everywhere else. And then what I started noticing was the reshares were going up. And
that was my thing too.
I was like, okay, why are so many people sharing this? Like, this is feeling a little bit weird, but like, you know what, whatever. The comments are off, so like people can stop doing that. So the next day I wake up and the shares now are at like 6,000, 6,000 shares. I'm like, this had like maybe 100 shares before. So I'm like, what is going on? Now, if you use social media and want to know a little hack, you can see how people reshare your posts. So there's on Instagram, basically you can see how people publicly reshare their stories. And what I started realizing was there was becoming a challenge out there of and I hate to say this, it sounds so awful, but it was people were calling it like the pig workout and tagging their buddies in it and resharing it online. And like, because you couldn't comment anymore, they were resharing it to their stories and like tagging their buddy in it. And people,
oh my God.
And like, it breaks my heart that like, that happened, but like these were the words that were being thrown against me. And guys, it was a 6-second video of me eating an Oreo. I don't even like Oreos that much. Like, and so that's when, as soon as I saw that, I was like, I'm done. So I deleted the video, privated everything else. I was like, there's a point of me where like, as a marketing professional, I want to see how organic growth works, but I'm also a human, and that was destroying. And that like, I think a lot of times we think of virality as like success, and we think the more views that you have, the more successful that you are. But I'm here to say I went viral. I didn't have the perfect strategy. I had a video and it happened and it sucked.
Yeah.
And it tore my life apart, and I haven't posted a video since because I've been absolutely afraid of it.
Yeah.
And like, I think there's this other side of virality that we don't talk about enough, is like this negative side. And I know in the marketing field, especially, we want these great results and that kind of thing. And I think that's great, but like, damn,
yeah,
it was just something that I never could have imagined happened before. And it was destroying to my body confidence, myself as a business owner, because I work in marketing. And then I was like, why would I want this to happen to somebody else? And it came down to be like just a lot of different things. But, I'd like to say this empowering story of like, this happened to me and I still kept posting videos and that, but I haven't.
Yeah.
It rocked my shit.
Yeah.
And I think now, like, this is the first time I've ever really publicly talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that I did an okay job of kind of explaining it, but I want to get more comfortable sharing about this because I think people deserve to know this side of it. But I think I didn't want to share it for a while because I didn't have this like pretty bow of like, this happened and now I'm like a pro running influencer and everybody loves my Oreo videos. That didn't happen. I just took it down and I've been silent on that page, and I've just been like a little sad and a little like not feeling myself.
Of course.
But I hope that over time what it shows is like the good content stays, finding your way back onto your side of the internet, reinventing the way that I thought of runner. As I said earlier, with 2 weeks ago I never would have said the word runner was difficult, but this is my story, this is what happened, and I hope that people can hear this story, and if this has happened to you, I'm so sorry.
Well, and I would also maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but I would say like 2 weeks ago you also wouldn't have had any doubts about calling yourself a runner. But this experience, I think you still came out on top, but like, it's not this whole like rah against everybody. This made me so much stronger. Like, no, that shit beats you down. I kept, when it happened to this podcast, for the women's sports episode, it was happening over the Christmas holidays. So I was also just really frustrated trying to like monitor my social media and like protect my other guests and stuff like that while I was like trying to make a turkey. But also like, I'm sitting there Christmas Day being like, I'm like creeping these people's social media profiles, just trying to find any kind of indication, being like, you have children and a wife. What are you doing?
Literally
calling me a dyke on the internet. Like, what for? What
That's
for on Christmas Day?
On Christmas Day.
You have better things to be doing.
Go hang out with your family.
Go step outside. Anything but this. But it became like, there were death threats. There was homophobia. It came to my personal page. It came everywhere. Crazy. And if you're one of those people, you won't be. Actually, people like that will not be listening to this podcast. I take it back.
Like, please don't.
You get what I mean. I think you'll find your way back. And like the posting of the videos, that is not what a runner is, right? No. Like, it's the fact that you're still wearing your colorful running shoes and signing up for the New York Marathon, hopefully. And,
I hope so.
And creating these dreams and these goals around being an athlete, regardless of what people have to say about a goddamn Oreo.
An Oreo. Guys, I don't even like Oreos that much.
Floating rock.
Floating rock.
Floating rock. I'd love to know what sort of resources you turn to for running content. We kind of talked a little bit about, we create the right side of the internet because it is curatorial. Social media can be a safe place if you make it so. I'd like to know what resources you turn to for running content that does feel more inclusive and has like helped you with your running journey.
So I think kind of a few different places where I got started. So some, like thinking about plans specifically. So let's say you want to run like first 5K, 10K, you know, you name it, there's a distance out there. Finding plans that don't relate to distance, but relate to minutes. So like basically what that means is like, let's say you're running a 10K, instead of a plan that says run 8 kilometers, it says run for 40 minutes. And like whatever happens during that time is great, but at least you got your body moving for 40 minutes. Right. That helped me reframe the way that I ran so much by not focusing on like this number of like, I have to reach this certain distance. It was, did I move my body for a certain amount of time? Awesome. And that was enough. And I think that's where I started, was looking at running in a way of how long can I move my body for? Perfect. Right. Whatever distance that came out to, that's awesome, because at least I move my body. Yeah. I think running content out there, there's so many great creators now that are leveraging, this idea of like, you know, average runner, like slow runner, and like those types of things. And those types of accounts I've always found is like a really fun and safe space to find sort of people that look like me, that relate to me, that are there for like a fun time. And I think my honest best resource, if it's available to you, is just sign up for your first race. Again, if that's your thing, doesn't have to be running, but I think like my greatest way that I felt this empowering feeling was signing up for my very first one, having no expectations, having no reality of really like what it would feel like. But once I crossed that finish line, like I've talked about a few times before, it changed my life. Right. And I think the hardest step is, you know, signing up for the first thing, lacing up for the first time. But I found like when I spent the money, I was like, well, I got to try.
Yeah. Sunken costs.
Yeah. I'm like, even if I walk it, even if I like cancel like halfway through, whatever, like I still tried. Yeah. So those I think would be like my top 3, is like finding like creators that make you feel good, signing up for a race if that's available, and just, you know, surrounding yourself with people, hopefully, that uplift you and like make you feel good about it, and don't make you feel like you have to achieve a certain distance. If you're moving your body for an amount of time, that's awesome. Yeah. And those would be probably my top 3 ways that like I got into it.
I like that. I think that certain distance concept, it works for whether it's running or any other type of physical activity. Like, try to find something that resonates with you and makes you feel empowered. And like, there's no shame in also trying something that's like a plan that you thought was going to work for you, and it being like, that did not motivate me the way that it looks like it motivates this complete stranger on the internet. Yes. Just pick a new one. Yeah. Just, it's okay for things to not work for you. It doesn't mean because you didn't do it the exact same way as somebody else that you can't do it.
Absolutely.
Exhibit A with you being like, I'm not going to go distance, I'm going to go time. Like it was just a change of mindset, and it changed how you viewed running.
Exactly. It made it so much of a healthier approach and just less overwhelming, because when it came time to lace up, if it would say like 20 kilometers, I'd be like, not a chance. But if it said like 2 hours, I'd be like, ooh, a podcast I could listen. You know what I mean? Like it reframed the way that I thought about it. And it keeps me going, and I still run races and have a lot of fun, and like I do all the training I need to, but because I spent the time and not the distance comes because you've spent the time.
And then copy and paste that to like every single life lessons you could ever do.
Literally.
Like, spend the time, you'll get there. Well, thank you so much for sharing this and for having this conversation. I think there's a lot of people who will benefit from hearing your wild stories of the bad side of the internet, but truly it's like, it's a good sign that there's a good side too, and that people can look to it. Where can people find you online? Plug that running content.
Yeah. So once I come back, Train with Ashley is my running account where I share about all the races that I'm doing, and also training to be a personal trainer and like what that looks like as a business owner. But also my business page is the New Leaf Collective. It is marketing, but it's also life and like what it feels like to be a business owner and small business encouragement and things like that. Those are the 2 main channels that I think you should follow me on.
Perfect. I'll make sure that they're in the description. description. As always, you can follow us at Say It I Dare You Pod on Instagram and on TikTok. And if you get the chance to leave a little review or even click download if you're listening to this on Wi-Fi, it does really, really help us with this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.